Hey. How you guys doing? This is dariSSight Entertainment. I am Daris D. McKinney, and I want to give an update and kind of walk people through the process and what's been going on for the. I'll say I have to, in order to understand what's up with today, you have to kind of look at the totality of 2018 to now, this is a message to everybody that's want to know what's going on and want to get an update on the films and everything like that. Just to kind of walk you through what it takes, or my mindset, get you into what I'm trying to do here and what I'm looking forward to accomplish here. Okay, so in order to communicate it well, I have to explain my process, my pros and cons, my um risk factor, and or the outcome I'm looking for to execute on. Okay, because it is about what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do overall? Overall, what's the actual outcome that you're trying to achieve? And most people, you know, they don't have to keep up with that. It's more about the gratifications of their peers or the exterior model of things and everything like that. But for me, it's what am I doing this for? What was the initial um goal and what's the outcome? Is it so gigantic it, distance between what was perceived to be the goal and what is the outcome now? Are they so detrimentally so apart where, or if they are, did they grow through the process so um extremely separate that what you were perceiving to do is not technically what was the outcome. I've talked to a lot of people, some very specialists and detail major um product productive people in the media industry, and some people even I know that some people may say, or some artists may say, or people, or just spectators or something, they may say that through the process everything changes and things evolve and all that stuff like that. I'm for that also, but I also want to make sure that what was in the script somewhat makes it to the final conclusion, when you're doing a movie and stuff. Because otherwise you're so, if like, for maybe that's okay for Avatar or Titanic or the Marvel movies, or like blockbuster love stories and everything like that, that's got major backing to it, that it could, you don't really, it's not the same movie that was written in the script. It just went through so much process of creativity that it just comes out and it's just this magical thing, or maybe something, just the journey made it change or something like that. But when you're low industry, or you're like low budget industry filmmaking or independent filmmaking industry, I think that it might be in your best interest is to set a goal, set a structure of the story, or what needs to what dots need to connect, and somewhat make sure that by the end of edit it matches up. Why? Because I always feel that as an actor you have to have some extreme chops to improvise, and that keeps the context of the scene, the scenario of the scene, the interaction of the storyline, the plots, and the dot connections, and if you're improvising or you're putting in another level of performance or character development into the context of the character, that it doesn't dramatically shape something different than what's the purpose of this person, and what are their interactions in the totality of the story. Because sometimes you can make a serious, dramatic, raw character in independent world. You can have an independent actor or a low budget actor, they could come in and give comedic timing or some kind of humor to a character that's supposed to be very dry and calculative, and determined and absolute. And so now this character that's supposed to be absolute, that moves on a quick of a dime, got this humor to him, and it's like, wow. So in order to make what an actor humor that an actor gave to this character that was supposed to be raw, now I have to make them psychotic because you did so much changes to it. But I have to catch it while we're in production and stuff like that. That's why I don't think, unless you got really, really, really great chops, I don't think you should allow too much changes in independent film from what was conceived. So that's a whole nother story, but I wanted to give you a process that I have to go through when I'm editing or I'm processing the film or I'm trying to keep the context of the film. I don't really allow a lot of stuff to go on set that would be where it would divert too much from what I want in the conclusion as the visionary person. So my vision and why I'm doing this story and what I'm trying to do in the long run with this story and how I'm trying to connect to a person in Kentucky and Tennessee and California and Atlanta and Chicago and Detroit and New York and everything in between, in China and in Europe and India. If I want the movie to somewhat be able to break through those walls, break through those audience, it's certain things that I want to be able to be universally communicated. And no matter how witty we are or how much our banter, our culture is into the film, I'm somewhat making it universal. Okay, so the reason why I'm talking about this, and we're gonna do a podcast on this, and hopefully everybody can stand about a half an hour to an hour of conversation, because I want to show you some things too, is to take everybody through what I've been going through to get everything to where it's at right now. In 2018, I was working with films. Like I didn't want to make a movie in Michigan because I felt that I just didn't like the spirit of how people make movies in Michigan. I felt like the love of the art wasn't really where I felt that it could compete against the market. And what I mean by that, I'm not asking for all the independent filmmakers to have the level of James Cameron, but I was asking for them to have the expertise and the actual excellence and the actual outcome of Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, Friday. I wanted at least us to make sure that we execute on our production, on our casting, on our packaging, at least to that level. You get what I'm saying? And if you look at fast forward from 2020, 2018, really this bubble kind of started around 2010 to now. If you look at all the independent films coming out of Michigan and a lot of independent stuff coming out of even Atlanta and everything, and you look at a lot of the independent stuff that's coming out, if you technically sit down and watch it, we barely are bringing any competition to Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, Friday. Those movies came out like in 1994. 1998. You know what I mean? Like, we can't beat that. We got better equipment, better production value, better ability than what they had back then. And the cinematic value, the things that you see in what John Singleton did in Boys in the Hood, even the stuff that I'm not even mentioning Spike Lee, because we so far from Spike Lee locally, it ain't no joke. It ain't no joke. So I'm not saying we so close to John Singleton or Ice Cube and Friday, or even the Menace to Society, Hughes brothers, and that. I'm not saying we any closer to that. I'm just saying those, I know those were the level that we needed to actually be able to achieve, because the technology gave us the ability to do it. So are we going to be disciplined to be focused and strategic and analyze what is capturing here? What's the characters doing? What are the directors doing? Is it executing on what's the premise here? And I felt that at least we needed to do that. And what I was seeing, I was just seeing that it was just really backstabbing and cutthroat, and it's like, I'm like, wow, man, y'all doing so much shady stuff, because it's like the dope boys look at it like slinging a rock or slinging a bag of weed or something, and then the mindset of the filmmakers or the wannabe filmmakers or the cinematographers that do music videos and all the other stuff, they kind of transition to what's the standard of the people that can fund this stuff, and most of the time the people that can fund it is dope money. You know what I mean? And it's like that. So I didn't want to touch any movie. I said, you know what they need is for me to be able to come in and give some expertise on, like, what is the industry standard for framing, or they call it a digital imaging technician. That work, that's what I wanted to provide for about a good 5 to 10 years. I wanted to provide that to a lot of the filmmakers, but the egos and the craziness that was going on by the time I came into it as an independent in 2018, it was so messy that I ended up taking the jump to kind of make my first film. I didn't really want to make it until like probably 2023. That was my goal. I wouldn't touch a independent film of my own, or an independent movie that I would kind of take on the ambassador of it. I wasn't going to do that until 2023, but by the time 5 months got into 2018, I said, man, dude, I guess I gotta try to make a movie, because it's so much craziness that you could get to attach yourself to. If a person's mindset is about their stature or their status of directing or making a movie, they could kind of get in the way of completing that movie or making that movie. So I said, I gotta really see what's going on here and try to work my way to achieving a really good movie in Michigan. So I decided to go into it 5 months, 5 months into what I would say was my main major, like, say, hey, I'm gonna throw everything to making a movie. So we went out and shot the movie. It was really good. It was a movie I wrote and everything, and it was very out of the box, because I always say, no, if nobody knows you, if nobody cares about you, if you live or die, make a statement. So I wrote a movie that really made a statement. I put 3 movies that I seen in the 80s and growing up and everything that I felt like was a very raw, cool movie to do and stuff. So as I was going out to shoot this movie and nickel and diamond to shoot this movie, we was giving the actors like food and credit and stuff, you know. So spent about 15 grand up on food, and by the time we end up getting pushed into January, where everything needed to be knocked out in October and November, but we pushed into January, and you know, snow was in the scenes and it broke continuity. In addition to that, we had it was just a thing that was developed more into the character than it was conceived. And to me, I knew, yeah, by that time, I said, yeah, we got to do this again. You know what I mean? Because I knew that it was breaking continuity and was breaking the visuals and like the perception of what needed to be seen here. And it was good. No, for me, it was like, hey, all we got to do is come back in March or April, because everything kind of looks the same in March and April than it looks in actual November. Or later on that year, we come back, do some pickup shots, and keep going and knock it out. But boy, by the time I was able to sit down with everybody, the catastrophicness of like not getting the film where we wanted it to be, it was just like, okay, look, I'm saving everybody major money because I'm taking on the burden and paying for everything to be able to record this stuff. Otherwise, we're kids in the backyard playing. If I don't have ability to capture it and see it through, especially we're out here doing a story that nobody wrote but me. So I'm saying keep the energy of getting the project completed. If 15 grand on people eating 15 grand up and us paying for gas and transportation and food and stuff, if that's the lowest part of the obstacle we have, yes, we got actors coming out to an hour into Howell, Michigan, 45 minutes to an hour into Howell, Michigan in order to do their scenes. But if our biggest cost is 15 grand on food and everything, then we just up it on the next time to about 25, 30 grand, and we're going to really knock this thing out, because most of the stuff we done, and we could do it again if we had to. I just felt like the goal was more important than getting captive in the trials and error of trying to film this movie. So no one wanted to return in March or the following that following year and the fall to pick up where we left off. So I say, you know what? I love this movie. I think it's a phenomenal movie, phenomenal idea. I'm going to do whatever I got to do to knock this out. And no matter if I have to recast it, I'll do that. It was like a light switch for me. It wasn't, I don't really do like long pondering and stuff. No, I set my goal. Once I make a decision, that's where I'm going. You get what I'm saying? So I decided, okay, let's see how everything works out. I seen everybody kind of fragmented and it was just negative and everything like that. And I'll just say, okay, look, let's just, I'll figure it out. You know what I mean? By the time I got done, I had to get new equipment so I could have because I knew what I went through the first time. One of the major things I wanted to do was I wanted to have better audio, so I ended up getting like lapels and different little mics to be able to kind of place around the scenery. So I technically, if I didn't have an audio person, I could knock this out and pretty much capture what I really needed to capture, you know what I mean? And then, you know, if I could kind of shoot it raw and up the pixels from 2K, 4K to 6K, 8K, I can manipulate framings and different things like that through post-production. And that's how I went into. And then this gentleman that was part of the cast, he really stepped up and he showed me that he was aggressive. And for me, I very much, it's rare that I find someone more aggressive than me. So he was very aggressive. So I knew if I harness his energy and harness what he was trying to go for, I can get this movie completed. Okay. So he expanded himself with his wife and everything, and they kind of really helped do a prep work and everything like that to make sure that it was nothing that could stop us from keep shooting. You know what I mean? So end results is, after re-strategizing, upgrading, expanding the idea, more blood, more craziness, more shooting, more angles, more stuff like that, I got the film done. But I kind of knew previous year while I was saving up, that while I was strategizing, doing work for other people to be able to get the equipment and everything that I needed to get and all that stuff like that, and whatever I needed to do to put money back into what I was doing, and kind of just freelancing myself out to other people's goals and everything like that in order to have the outcome that I want. I kind of seen that in that year, I never stopped filming. What I did was I said, you know what, let's just jump to the next project. Because for me, my goal was, no matter what, if I do 3, 5 films, just knock out the production and take yourself away from the environment and spend about a couple years editing all that stuff together and piecing it all together. And that's what I did. It wasn't favorable for a lot of people, but I didn't. In 2023, I was supposed to start my first movie. By the time I got to 2023, I did about 4 or 5 movies, and then I did an additional one. You get what I'm saying? So I had 6 movies, and by the time 2024 came, so what I did was I said, man, financially I done destroyed myself because I wasn't getting paid for this stuff. I wasn't really economically making sure that I was liquid and cashed out, because technically, even an independent film, if each film, I'll say, if it goes, I don't care what no person tells you in Detroit, they are liars if it don't compute to this. Each film is unavoidable for you not to spend, I'll say, $30,000 to $80,000 on a film. $30,000 to $80,000. If you could do 30, I still think you're not counting some things that you are taking care of that's technically should be marked as economic value. Okay. And I know that a lot of editors and a lot of cinematographers, they may do a film a job and stuff, and they may not charge their cinematography duty to their cameraman duty. They may not separate that. They may not separate their cinematography duty to their cameraman duty to their directing duty. They may actually keep it all the same. But like a director technically gets paid like $1,000 to $1,500 per day if you just broke shit. If you doing broke production, that's how much a director would get paid. A cinematographer would get paid like maybe $300, or a cameraman would get paid maybe $200 to $300. A cinematographer may get paid $300 to $500. I'm talking, this is broke people stuff. The average actor is getting paid $50, $100, $150, $200, $300, and now I'm seeing people getting paid $2,500 per day. Okay, and if you add this up, the average movie is about 35 actors that you're kind of playing in, no matter if they have little parts to expanded roles. All major actions and speaking roles, you'll find that you're spending about, I'll say, realistically, about $20,000 to $30,000 on actors. You know what I mean? I'm lowballing it. Trust me, I'm lowballing it. So when you calculate that and you calculate the production, the average production is about, you good if you can get away with making a person bring their camera, bring their lights, bring their equipment, their audio equipment, and all that stuff. If you can get them to do it for $15,000, you got over. The average I'm seeing is 30 to about 50 grand. Okay, 30 to 50 grand just to make sure that you can actually shoot the damn thing. Okay, me, like I said, the highest I was doing was 15 grand. But that was for the cast to eat, to make sure that no matter how many days I go into production, I can get them breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know what I mean? And if we're lucky, I can rent a van to pick people up if I got to pick people up and all that stuff, and have transportation. Stuff like that. It eats that up. So by the time I got to a decent project where they had a little cash flow, I think the actors got about $19,000, and I think what I was able to put to like transportation, the location, maybe some hard drives or something like that, or maybe like, I wouldn't even say hard drive because I think we had to come extra out of pocket on that. Um, I think it was we were 27,000. You get what I'm saying? 27,000. So by and all in all, it still just wasn't enough to pay cinematographer, the director, the cameraman, the audio technician, stuff like that. Well, it was paid a little bit of the audio technician, so I'll take that out. But really, the equipment, the cinematographer, and the cameraman and the director, I had to just eat that. Meaning that $50,000 just gone. So that's why I'm able to accomplish knocking out movies, because I'm not securing the construction of the movie. I'm kind of saying, hey, I'll take on that nut. Why? Most of the time, because this is my film anyway. I'm the writer, I'm the screenwriter, I'm the director, I'm the cinematographer. So no, at the least, I could bring other people in later to fund this stuff. If everybody kind of act like spending money is catastrophic, because I always say I should never put myself against a wall to say, okay, I could do it for $4,000. Nope. Yeah, I do it until I'm done. And you just got to be an executive producer. What is the job of executive producer? Job of executive producer is to make sure they can financially make everything happen. Everything. If a person breaks down, actor, crew member breaks down on a road, on the side of the road with their car or something like that, it's for the actual executive producer to make sure that there's enough liquid to put that person in play. Why? Because that's how much you're supposed to be paying them anyway. You're supposed to make sure that they're getting paid enough money. If they got to rent a car, they could just say, yep, my car broke down, let me go rent a car. But if you're not even paying them enough to even come to work and do production, then you're on the mercy of them. The production's on the mercy of them. I had to fight through all that on every project I did. And I don't care. Because I know the end results is I get to decide what's up with the movie. And if I have to reestablish my economic self, then I'll do that and we'll go forward. I knew that it's a possibility that I want to. My point is, I knew that it was a possibility that I'll just go shoot movies. So in between me doing that movie and going back out to redo it, I knew most likely if I have to, I'll just shoot as much stuff as I can, and I'll take a couple years and just put it all together, do whatever I got to do to make it play well for the viewers. So for me, I calculated that into 2018. That's how my brain is. I just I don't really live in the time we're in. I'm saying, okay, what if this happened? What if this happened? What if this happened? What if this happened? What does this happen? What does this happen? What if you got in this situation? What if you're in this situation? And I kind of made sure that I had a well thought out. I came to terms with whatever needed to happen next. That's my thing. What needs to happen next? I'm always like that. I live in that. I never, even when people are being negative and they kind of threatening and how they look at how they perceive what's going on and how long it's taking for me to release the movies or whatever, I don't really live where they're at because they're in a self-gratification momentarily thing. I need to figure out, how do we attract people that don't care about us? How do you take 350 million people in America, get 18 million people to watch a film so you could generate about $7.5 million? How do you do that? You got to make sure you fall in love with the presentation. That's what drives, that's why we like movies, all of us. We like movies to how it comes on. How we feel the logo, how we feel the intro, how we feel the scenes and the sounds and the music and the actors and what cuts and stuff like that. We fall in love with that stuff that is psychologically got us where we keep watching another movie and we watch another movie. We cannot afford to be low budget people that ain't got no goddamn money to do this stuff. Excuse my language on Christmas. That don't got enough capital. The less money we have independently, the more we got to do what the industry do. Why? Because it guarantees a success. The more you use the platform, use the structure of the industry, the more you actually execute on the outcome. And that's how I think, and that's what I believe, and it's come to be very true. So through the process of me getting ready to go and do that movie, I was just doing another movie. I wanted to I felt insecure about what happened in the production, staff wise and technical and actual execution on time, monopolization and everything. So I did another movie and stuff, and I was kind of saying, I'm gonna watch everybody. I'm gonna watch to see what's going on here, and that way I can make better decisions to what I'm not gonna allow, and I'm gonna make sure I supersede over it. That is never an issue in the end. When the outcome comes, it'll be what I want to happen. It would be what I was going for. Okay. So what I did was I kind of did that movie. By the time I got done with that movie, the last scene was the lady, and she would come up, and his hands was to kind of come and kind of rub the back of her spine area, right? And I'm because we had to rent the room and everything, I had to go under the table in the actual bedroom in order to get a decent framing of it, you know what I mean, with the camera. But when I was doing that, I was there with a gentleman that, like I told you, he was very aggressive, and I kind of knew, I know how to get this movie completed. I know how to get this movie completed. And I'm talking about the previous one that we did. So I knew right then and there, that was a year before we went out to do it. So I knew right there, I said, yep, this I knew how to get this movie completed. So what I did was I did whatever it took to persuade and do different things to get whatever I needed to get to make sure I'm able to go out and make a really, really good movie and stuff, right? So I went back out and a couple years later and totally executed. So I knew in between those times I was calculating things. I was kind of putting dotting I's, crossing T's, making sure that I problem solve things I seen that was popping off, and literally it was the whole reason why I never wanted to do a movie in Michigan. But I told myself, hey, don't just not want to do a movie in Michigan, solve the problem. Whatever the issue that you may see through making movies in Michigan and how it is with the culture and all that stuff, try to problem solve those things. And that's what I did. I said, okay, I'm a problem solve it. So technically, that movie forced me to actually come up with some major things that I problem solved, that no matter what, once I did it, I put it part of the actual production and the system and my business model and how I structure stuff, how I go into a movie, how I execute on a movie. I had to make sure that it's very rare that cast, crew, economic system would stop me from being able to execute on a film or an idea. So I did what it took, and I put my life on the line, really. So for about 6 years, I did things, went into one thing and completed that, and went to another thing, completed that, because I kind of perceived that if all less failed, just keep making good content and take a couple years and just knock it out and do a good execution on it. Now, this may not be favorable to a lot of the people, but I made sure that cost factors were very low. No one was doing 50 grand, $80,000 because one, they couldn't afford it. They couldn't even mess around in that space. You know what I mean? I knew that what my it factor was to make sure that I didn't really make people have a major cost factor to be involved. And at the same time, I wanted to be able to, if I had to buy everybody out, you didn't spend no money that I can't buy you out. So that's how I kind of had it. And I made sure that everything is retained by me. I am the sole owner. I am literally the decision maker of everything. Why? Because somebody has to love the films to completion. And if nobody, if it's too much hands in the cookie jar and hands in the ownership of it, then it's gonna be you're not gonna get stuff done. The relationship will break so much where it's just not in existence. So I couldn't have that. And plus, I knew that it. I knew that before going into any film, because that's what was one of my major factors with not wanting to do a film. But so what I did was I just took 6 years and I knocked out about six movies. I mean, I did a lot. I did short films that I don't even include in it. I did trailers I don't even include, and I did productions, commercials, and different things that I don't even include in my process of what I was doing in that 6 years. I did a lot, a lot. I'm talking about stuff that's well portfolio stuff. I just include the movies that I did, and I did about 6 films and everything that I could really say that I could put them together and make a presentation to them. Okay, so last couple years I had to say, okay, hey, obviously I have to come to terms that everybody around me, they don't really have liquid, they're not cash flush and everything. I can't go to them and say, hey, I need 30 grand. I need 100 grand to build this studio, to build what I need to execute on. I would never give my films to other people that's making films in the community, because two problems with that. One is now you don't have control of your film, and you're subjected to the personality and the culture of the community of filmmakers in Michigan. And it's the shadiest, dark, crooked, crazy, unloyal, lack of honor and integrity. Ain't no way in hell I'm putting myself in that situation. I'm just not gonna do it. I don't have to. I always tell people, if you want to be boss, if you want to tell me what to do, put your money on the table. I am not gonna struggle and go through drama economically, and I'm gonna just give over something that I technically lawfully don't have to give over, because I'm the owner. I'm the sole person that got this thing done, and it's my ability to get it done, to film it, to execute on it, to wrote it, and all that other stuff. I didn't allow myself to put myself in a situation where I'm spending 6 years, 8 years, where I'm doing somebody else's stuff, and if they decide to be shady or like crazy, so they ain't pay me and they shady. That's stupid, and I'm not gonna do that. So I didn't do that. So I made sure that I don't put myself in no shady situation where I'm not the person. You have to go in contract with me to make me give up ownership, to make me give up anything that I've created and that I've licensed with the Library of Congress. A judge can literally type it up and you're right there. That's what I did with everything. I made sure everything was that it registered me and it belonged to me. Why? Because I perceived that everybody too broke to really be out here making movies, and that's the whole reason why I never wanted to be. I'm like, y'all not doing no, y'all not even doing Stevens, like John Singleton and Hughes brother and Ice Cube and Friday. Y'all not even doing stuff on that level. Why would I like nickel and dime, and I'm paying for to execute cameras and everything like that to be able to film it? Otherwise, nobody else got no cameras. Nobody else gonna get that to us. Nobody else gonna give us equipment to be able to do this. And if we are, we're gonna be paying them $50,000 to execute on it. They was charging like technically. I always tell people like, hey y'all, if you ever see dariS on the set, that means you pay me about $25,000 to $3,500 a day to be there. Now, if nobody here pay me that amount, then you on my mercy, you on my grace, and I don't mind. I don't mind. Why? Because let's do the work. Let's do the work. Yes, sir, I'm owner, and I'm the sole provider of this thing, and I'm executing on this stuff, and I'm the reason why it's getting done, really. Because what we do, we paid all the actors money. We fed all the actors. All the money went to them. So somebody got to say, hey, who's here to make sure that the film gets done, gets executed on? And did we pay them? You know what I'm saying? That didn't matter. So I don't care about that. I say my goal was just knock out the movies and go take a couple years and knock it out. I'm not gonna. I watched a lot of independent films here, and I see like, yeah, they did some good stuff. They did good work. Some stuff I really respected because it even kind of let me know how, like, what's my chances in the marketplace. You know what I mean? So that's why I was excited about a lot of that stuff. You get what I'm saying? Because it does. You get to see what you're gonna do. What's most likely gonna be our outcome on Tubi? What's gonna likely gonna be our outcome on Amazon Prime, on Peacock, and all that other stuff? And it kind of let me see, like, okay, is it a way that I can get on those platforms without shady people? You know what I mean? And by going through the process and watching people do stuff, I'm able to do things a little bit better and execute on things. But my vision was always what I'm kind of seeing through my content right now. I know I talked to a long time about that, but I need you to kind of understand my mindset on this stuff. It's very important because I'm not in a place where I'm gonna switch up. I did that. I compromised through the process of making this stuff. I think by the time it was all done, I spent about $125,000, but that actually hurt the timing of getting things done because it was about $700,000 worth of really economic stuff I had to do. I had to execute, but I had to manipulate locations. I had to manipulate actors. I had to manipulate like hard drive space and computers and all the other stuff. I had to manipulate that stuff and sway it and time it and patient it until I can get the execution I need of $700,000 because that's what hurt. That's what hurt. I needed that money. You cannot really, like, for me, I wasn't out there doing iPhone movies or lower Kodak movies or default settings on my cameras and stuff. I wasn't doing that. I was saying, okay, what is the projector Panavision camera doing on dark night? How is it capturing images? What is the IMAX camera doing on set? And how close can I get to that? What is the red camera, $100,000 camera is doing on set? 144,000 setup is doing on set, and how can I execute on that? That's how I was filming the movies. The problem is, if you look at things, if you record things, if you present, if you are scientifically trying to get to that, that was through the whole process and trial and errors and all that kind of stuff. But my overall goal on every single one was that. And if I was going to execute on that, that meant that I needed to have a $1 million studio, and I needed to have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment to be able to execute on that. So I had to do whatever I had to do to not quite have that kind of setup, but get in the ability to execute on those things. But it sucked up a lot of time. Because you're editing something that's like 6K, 8K, and it's freezing up the computer, and you're waiting for rendering and all this other stuff. And plus, I don't have the hard drive space, the editing hard drive space. It's easy to have storage space, but the editing hard drive space is expensive because for every project, it's like 10 to 15 terabytes. That would mean that you need to have about 45 terabytes technically 30 to 45 terabytes for each project, because you gotta have room for the original footage. Then the original footage need to be processed to a Kodak that can be edited, and then that Kodak can be edited needs to revert back to the raw, so it can make sure that it keeps the pixelation and the color bit rate and all that good stuff like that. In order for you to do that, you gotta proxy it so you can be able to cut in and move around and make adjustments that you need to make, and then you gotta render it out in the quality that can be transferred over to the studios. So now you got the movie. What can I say? You got it as a 15 terabyte. You got about 6 terabytes of a rendering of a proxy process, and then you got the rendering that's another like a 400 to a terabyte. You know what I mean? So make a long story short, in that process, I was able to um in my situation I had to try to do it without some of that. You know what I mean? And it prolonged everything. Put me through the process, and then you're doing coloring and sound and foley and closed caption and really executing on the edit and seeing what can I do without, what I can't do without, what's the story. You know what I mean? And then for me, my problem was I did a movie that was some major special effects. So with the help of AI, I'm able to execute a little bit more on that special effects than I did previously. So sometimes I'll pull the movie in order to execute on the special effects a little bit more. Look, this is what it takes to do movies, okay? So in the process of the 8 years, I will say my totality of my story, we're talking about from 2008 to now, is to 2018. I'm sorry, 2018 to now. Um, my process was extremely expensive and very independent because the spectator of it, or the loftiness of it, was good to conversate about and theorize about, but you can't really get captivated in that. You got to execute on this stuff. You got to get it done. So for me to get it done, it was brutal. And I'm coming out of it right now. So what I wanted to do is I just wanted to talk to you guys about the execution of it. And I'm actually getting chewed out because I'm doing this on Christmas, and I'm not supposed to be doing anything on Christmas, I guess. I didn't know that, but that's my fault. So what I'm doing, I want to make it quick to kind of show you guys some of the stuff that I've been doing. You know what I mean? So as we one of the movies that I did was In the Rising Star. I'm not gonna be able to kind of go through this too much and everything because I really got to wrap this up. But these are one of the movies that we did. It's really good. It's a beautiful movie. And all that cutting and all that special effects and all that sound and all that stuff like that, and me trying to execute on Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos, all that good stuff and everything. So this is one of the most important movies to me. It's called Shohi, and executing on that movie, it was a zoo. It was insane to try to execute on that. You know what I mean? And then I'll show you another one. It's called Better to Bless. This is a Christian short film, but it was really good. We did a great job on that. And I'll show let me see. I do got another one here. Girl in the Wall. Maybe it's on this one. Let's see if it's on this one. Nope, I don't think that's on that one. Yeah, that's In the Rising Star. I'm gonna come out of this and go back to this. So let's see how this is. Let me see if I see it. What are we looking at here? This is Shohi. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Let me look at this. Maybe this is it. Well, that's In the Rising Star. But not that. Maybe it is this one. So let me try to find it for you guys. But I got multiple movies that's about to come out and stuff, But make a long story short, all this stuff I've been in the process of actually executing on putting it into distribution. Okay. And I don't really talk about it. I just kind of do the work, upload this stuff, go through quality control and everything like that, because they got a major quality control situation that they're doing. Okay, so yeah, so make a long story short, so I turned it over to distribution. If you look at all the films, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on there. 2 of them we don't have to worry about. One of them is actually on the platform already. I'm not talking about it, but it's on the platform already. But I actually gave them an updated version and make it longer and everything like that. And but not longer, but put some more detailed stuff in there. But also I'm in the process of like really finalizing certain things. So some things I kind of say, you know what, I'm gonna add a scene in here to wrap up the actual scene. So that's what I did. I did a resubmission of it, and in addition to other things, I wanted to put more B-roll and extra stuff in there, and more sound, better music, and all that stuff to just make sure that I execute on it the way that I envisioned it. So this is out of my hands. This is into distribution hands, and they're giving me good feedback on it. And they telling me 60 to 90 days that we should be really on the platforms and stuff. But people think this stuff is cheap. It's not. Even just to kind of every time you submit a project, they always give you like different things that you're doing and everything like that. And then they ask you for more money. They ask you for more money and stuff. So sometimes in the process of it, you're going through these like, okay, if you want us to hurry up and get your stuff done and hurry up and get it on the platform, are you willing to pay us more money and stuff like that? So I got to take care of that stuff. I don't have nobody to help me with this stuff. I have to execute on this myself. You know what I mean? So I wanted to talk to you guys about that, to give you guys a little outcome of what's going on. I fight for these films. I'm not leaving them behind. I really have true belief in these movies and what I'm doing. Parastat and Hood Cleaner and all that stuff like that. That's going to be an addition in the next 30 days or so. All this stuff is so hard because even if something is not right and I want more shots or some B-roll or I got to get more hard drive editing space, I got to figure it out. So literally in between those movies, and then I executed on those movies. By the time I was done with the movie I did in 2023 and 24, I took myself, stop, Darius. Go out, make money, get your finances back in order so you can even be in a position to edit these movies the right way. So that's what I did. I took about a year it literally took about 2 years for me to put myself in a place where I can even buy a pair of underwears. It was brutal. I put myself in a major financial crunch. So, like I told you, that's just the battle of success and getting something done that's pretty big. I want to be clear about this. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your dreams are. I don't care what technology has done to advance. Don't make a movie. Don't make a studio, don't make a film production, don't even look at yourself as what you're trying to accomplish, even if it's to open up a restaurant, a coffee shop, a clothing store, or whatever it is. Don't attack it without $250,000. You need $250,000 to actually put yourself in the right situation to execute on business. A business, even if the business is going to make you just a few $100,000 a year, you're gonna need a operation cost for jump off. And I'm in my research and in the process that even the trials and errors and the things that I'm going through, I'm telling people it's gonna take you about $250,000 to really do something adult, to do something in the adult world. You get what I'm saying? So nobody had that kind of support for me. We were nickel and diming it. And I would say I was nickel and diming it. And for whatever everybody think they contribute to what's going on, you got to remember, really, if it didn't go into production, post-production, then it's all a pipe dream. You are depending on the person that's going to see it through. That's what you're doing. If you're saying it's all right for actors to eat up the money because you're paying for food and credit, if you're paying actors $100, $50, $250, $300 a day and stuff, if you're doing that don't go into making sure the movie is filmed, making sure the movie is captured. It's $30,000 to $50,000 to do that. And I say this because you got to keep in perspective everything. As a business person, you need to keep things in perspective. Somebody got to live and die this stuff in order to see it to fruition, especially if you got no economic standing behind it. If you got no true executive producers, you got no economic stability where people actually got a company that they've been successful in, and then they could pour in $50,000, $100,000 every single year to get to the goal and the outcome they want on something. Like I said, if you do a movie decently right, I don't care if you're independent, if you do it decently right, you could see $600 to $1.5 million from that movie. That's worst case scenario. That's worst case scenario. Worst case scenario. If you can't put $100,000 to an outcome that's highly probable to get $600 to $1.5 million, it's a whole nother situation going on here. I don't get caught up in that. I don't get steady. I'm not stagnant on that. What I do is, in order to get to where I'm at right now, and for the content to get to where it's at right now, somebody got to be accountable for getting it done. And getting it done is not editing, because it's easy to edit stuff. It's easy to just put things together and just say this scene goes to this scene, or this cut to go to this cut, and you put up some music and you fade in, you fade out. It's hard to kind of say, hey, we got it. Okay, we got to execute on that. Okay, we got to have something to cut to. Okay, we got to come into the scene and exit the scene, and it's got to look presentable. It's got to look respectable. And that's a hard thing when you, like, you know, you only got one person on set. You only got a certain person on set for a day, or you got to shoot a person out in 2 days, I had to shoot a person out in 1 day. I had to shoot a total of 5 actors out in 1 day, and they had about 5, 6 scenes. I think it was probably more than that. I'm probably not even thinking. It's like six major location and scenes and action points, all that stuff, hardcore stuff. I probably had 6 to 10 scenes. I had to knock that person out in a day, knock all them out in a day, and it was all over the city. It was day and night scenes, all kind of stuff. So stuff like that. I know sometimes it's one movie. None of the movies at nighttime. It's all in the daytime. All the 90% of the movies in the daytime. So that means I couldn't shoot outside of 7 in the morning to 4 o'clock at night, 3, 4 o'clock at night, because it was in the fall and the winter, so it was getting dark at 5. You know what I'm saying? It was getting light at 7:45. You get what I'm saying? A.M. So trust me, I can take you through everything. But I wanted to just give you guys something to kind of talk about, or even just evaluate and everything like that. It's a lot to get this stuff done. Like I said, my goal is to make sure that 60 to 90 days, I'll say February, March 14th area, something like that, that I can really celebrate this stuff and really do some real power movement with this stuff. And that's what I'm kind of looking at from the distribution and everything like that. But it took a lot to get this stuff done, and I told myself never again would I ever compromise and try to be persuasive to a great goal. Whatever's got to happen for that goal has got to happen for that goal. And I would not allow people that can't economically be in the room to dictate time. Time, only way you beat time is with economic power. If you have no economic power, then you have to have the patience of time. Time monopolization comes into play when economics is not possible. So that's how I look at things. That's how it was. And it's not how I look at things. It's just how it was. But I see a big path coming along in 2026. It's really good. It's positive. But trust me, it took a lot. But like I said, I perceived it would be like this because of it's Michigan and the type of culture and the type of people that you're dealing with. It's just not. It's not going to be any different. So in order to execute on certain things, you have to have a game plan. You have to have a long look at things, and you have to have patience through the process, and you can't let it swallow you and and dispirit you and give you like just take away what you're trying to accomplish. You got to just execute. Just got to fight for it. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna get off of here. Look, I'll be dealing with people for the next, I'll say, 30 to 60 days to build a better structure, stable circle. And that's how it's going to be for the rest of my life. I'm not really kind of dealing with any of the stuff that I went through. Like I said, I'm okay with what I went through over the last 6 to 8 years, but that's not the standard. That's what's got to get done, what had to get done, how it had to get done. You know what I mean? We have the ability with technology and advancement of where things are to execute on probably some of the highest outcomes of Hollywood. But we'll never do that if the egos and the perception and limited perception is how everybody gotta operate. You know what I mean? And I always tell people, make sure that when you're paying for stuff and you're paying for movies independently, it's somewhat reasonable. Like, you know, so I will say if a movie can make $600 to $1.5 million independently, I'm talking about garbage stuff. I seen hood ghetto stuff make that kind of money. It's all right to give yourself a budget limitation at like $150,000. You get what I'm saying? If somebody's paying $15,000, it's trial and error, and there's some things that might come up that you might want to push it. Give a little cushion there to go to like 30, 45. That's ridiculous. I wouldn't green light anything with 15 grand no more. Anything. I wouldn't green light anything. Because I know that you gotta give yourself some cushion there for transportation for actor, gas or food or something like that, and it's just that'll get ate up. With 15 grand would get ate up. It would be irrelevant to making the movie. So it's disrespectful to the goal and what is to be the outcome if everybody's scrapping for food for 15 grand, because that's no money. That's not no money to do any of this. It's not no money to bring the actors to the set. It's not no money to execute on the production. It's not no money to actually execute on the post-production. The only way you could do that is somebody got to sacrifice themselves. Somebody got to almost destroy themselves in order for that budget to work. And yes, at a time, due to the pandemic and all the other stuff, yes, you might be able to execute on that. But not, it's just, I'm telling you, it's not no more. That can hurt you. And what I've been through, I would never want a person coming into film to do that, because they could lose their life. They could lose their life. They could lose their house. They could lose the roof over their head. They could lose their transportation. They could lose everything because you're not doing anything to sustain the operation. You have to have operation costs, and you're not doing anything to sustain that. So that means your stability is coming from sporadic places. Okay, I'm done. I don't want to. I can go into this for hours. I'm a podcaster, so I can go into this for hours. But look, my name is Darius D. McKinney. This is dariSSight Entertainment, and we are about to make some noise. I don't talk about it a lot because I wanted to execute on a lot of things. I'm executing on a lot of things as we speak, and it's very, 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 very much in the way of outcome right now. Okay, I'll talk to everybody. Like I said, my email is attached, info at dariSSight Entertainment and everything like that. And if it's not in the description, I'll put it there. But it's time to do some really good work. It's time to take on the stuff. I feel that I'll say this in my closing. 90% of the stuff that came out of Chicago, Atlanta, and Detroit have it caught up to Bad Boys, the first Bad Boys. We're not talking about the clothes and the cars because I still don't think you caught up to that in technical it was captured. But at the same time, the execution of making film, I don't think we got up to Friday, Boys in the Hood, and Menace to Society. I think that's ridiculous. Everything else is it's weird. It's some kind of idealism of making movies. It's almost like potential of student films, which I'm talking about industry student films, like what people do in NYU, what people do in LA, where it's got some major back into it and major technical stuff. I think it's on that level, and we should be way above that. We should be way above that because it's our independent stuff, and like 50 Cent is beating everything. And I know people that spending major money and your stuff still getting beat by 50 Cent like 5-10 years ago. Something's wrong with that. And that's how I kind of felt it was. And even for mine, I'm not saying that I'm much better. Like I said, I'm nickel and dime in my stuff. My stuff was done for very, very, very cheap. But I think I did some really cool presentations to what was done, and I didn't go out and disrespect. When I was filming it, I took it very serious, very serious. I kind of knew what the opportunity I had to actually be out there doing it in a 10 to 20 year thought process. I wasn't kind of just doing it just to say I gotta get something out. I was doing it saying like, hey, if I never do it again, I need to try to capture this. I need to try to do this. I need to try to execute on this because I have the ability and I kind of have the understanding of it. So that's what I kind of went through. I'm not saying I'm the greatest filmmaker in Michigan or anything like that. Like I said, I have a quarter of the money that like 90% of the filmmakers locally are using. I will going forward because ain't no way. Ain't no way I'm doing that again. Okay? Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. I'll see you guys in 2026.